Hey everybody, Eric Dorward here at the Spartan Rocketry Club, continuing our build of the Quest Terrier-Orion model rocket. And we are ready to at least do a little bit more with the stuff that we've built so far. In the intervening time, the glue is dried on this, so it is ready to use. And my repair job on this particular fin looks pretty well set. Um, that probably should be sanded down, but it's not really worth doing right now because I've got other things to be worried about first. So what we do need to do is all these burrs, which again they're pretty big, frankly, they need to come off. Especially they need to come off the root. The front and the back faces I'm not too worried about. I'm going to sand them anyway because they are surprisingly large. But they're going to get taken care of when I round the fins. But anyway, I've lined them up and just, ooh, that makes a bad sound. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty awful. I'm just going to sand it until hopefully all the black part is off. I can see over these two. There's still a decent amount. There we go. The black part would be the laser etched part, so that's kind of how you know that you've gotten rid of the burr. If the laser part, the burned part is gone, you should be in pretty good shape. I'm going to take care of, oh man, that's an awful sound. Yeah. It looks like part of the problem here is that making that awful sound. I mean, it's going to make a pretty bad sound one way or the other. But like this side wasn't that bad. And it looked like on those two faces, the burn marks were kind of like corrugated. Like this one is too. So yeah, I'm bracing myself here. Wasn't so bad. More on this right side there. All right, that'll do. Same deal with the other set of fins. Line them up. Probably better than that. They're not quite lined up. So some of the difficulty in lining them up is that the burrs actually stick up a bit, which is going to make it a little bit harder to actually get them flat, all flush, so that they're all getting sanded simultaneously. Okay, last side. Okay. Great. Main step there is taken care of. Now I'm going to round some of these, but not all of these, because you certainly don't need to sit there and watch that. You could probably have skipped rounding or sanding this off, but again, that burr would make this a little on the difficult side. So I'm actually going to round the front and the back. This is the root. We definitely don't round that. The top, you can round it if you want, but the front and the back are really where I'm going to focus. So I'm just running the sanding block around that angle, somewhere between 10 and 15 times, at least to start. Okay, and then examine the work. Just look down, straight down like this, and see how curved it is. It should be nice and round. If it's not, like this side is a little straighter and this is a little more curved over. So a couple quick passes there ought to help. It's better. The middle, I've had a harder time getting round in the past, and it actually looks pretty good in this case. I'm not going to worry too much about that. Same deal with the back. this time, I am not anywhere near rounded up at the top, interestingly. So let's go over that a few more times. Hopefully, you know, when you're sanding, if you do about the same number of passes on each side, you should end up, hopefully, with a pretty symmetrical face. That is not always the case, or you might like lose track while you are sanding and end up with something that's not quite symmetrical either. And in either case, that's all right. Just like I'm doing here, have a look down and see, well, what needs attention. This isn't perfect, but it should work. All right. So that takes care of that. If you want to sand this edge, you know, go ahead. It's a little trickier because you've got corners here that are pretty hard to round, even though they're like half rounded anyway. This is a little less essential, so I don't get too bent out of shape about how this looks. The middle, again, is not really rounded at all, so it needs some more passes. That's okay. Again, I'm not terribly worried about this face. I'm much more worried about the lead edge and to a lesser extent the tail edge. The root, of course, that needs to stay. All right, so that's good. I'm going to repeat the process for these and these. Just to quickly note, so hopefully it's kind of obvious, but this is the root. This is going to be the lead edge, and this is going to be the tail edge. So the grain of the wood should be roughly parallel-ish with the lead edge. It should be roughly perpendicular-ish to the back edge or to the root edge. So that's how that's going to work. Those, you don't need to watch me sand. It's not all that interesting, but it is definitely something worth doing. I mean, you don't have to, and in fact, I don't think the instructions don't really say to round them at all, but I still think it's a good idea. All right, the other things that we need to do quickly here are, here's the shock cord. Remember, the Kevlar here is, well, it's going to be part of the recovery system. The Kevlar is great because it is nigh indestructible. I mean, it is not truly fireproof, it's resistant anyway because it's going to be back here where the ejection charge goes off. So it can take a lot of abuse, but it is pretty rigid, and having the elastic here is nice as kind of insurance to allow a little bit of recoil. All right, so the instructions say that we are going to line up the ends, and we are going to then use the two ends, and we're going to treat them as if they were a single rope, and we are going to tie a knot approximately an inch in. So I'm going to kind of, see, I adjusted it here to get it roughly in the right place. I'm not going to actually measure an inch, but that's pretty close to an inch. And this is just to bind the two together. That's all this is doing. You could probably do a more sophisticated knot than this, but this will do the trick. All right, so we've got plenty of shock cord then. The last thing we're going to do in this particular video is we are going to attach the, we're going to install this into the body tube, which means we got to go get the body tube. So the body tube was busy hanging out elsewhere. It was kind of in the way. Here is the body tube. There are two, actually, but it should be pretty obvious which one's the right one because only one is going to fit. So this needs to go in. Typically, it wouldn't really matter. We could put it in like this. We could put it in like this. But because we've already have the shock cord ready to go, it means that we need to thread this stuff through the body tube before we install it, which honestly is kind of annoying, but this is a good way of attaching a shock cord. The an Estes approach of gluing the shock cord in right near the nose cone or where the rockets separate, it's easy to fix if it gets damaged, but it's not as strong and it can snag stuff. this is way stronger, but it's also hard to fix if something amiss happens. Anyway, we do need to glue things in place. So I've got my glue ready. I need to put, it doesn't actually say how deep in the glue should go, but this is going to end up level like this. So it should be about 2 inches, I would say. You can measure it out if you really wanted to. Like you could get a dowel like this and then mark on the dowel where you think the glue should go. But I'm going to eyeball it. I get myself some glue here. And I'm going to paint it inside. Like so. Trying to get it all at a pretty uniform depth of about that 2 inches. It's not going to be perfect, but it should be good enough. Okay. A little glue bob there, don't need that. Now the instructions suggest that you should thread this through now and then push it into place and then get some extra glue after it's in. I don't really love that plan. So I'm going to put, while I'm at it, I'm going to put some glue right out of the bottle, just about, I don't know, half an inch, quarter of an inch inside the tube. And that way I have both centering rings basically ready to go. Now, I need to thread this through. So I'm going to stand it upright and I'm going to do my best. And this is, the string isn't perfectly straight. So I'm going to do my best to thread it through, and it's, you can see it's coiling back in on itself. It's going to get in the glue. That is pretty unavoidable. But ideally, we will try to get it in the least amount of glue possible. And I've definitely gotten plenty of glue so far. And that's just a fact. It's just a fact I'm going to have to deal with. I'm going to grab a dowel here and use it as a push to push the string down, because it's the fact that it's coiling over is making this much more difficult than it really needs to be. And yeah, that's pretty annoying. You could probably get yourself a needle from, say, like a crochet set, a hook. That might make this easier. I've got it about halfway through, so I'm going to try to use the back end of this dowel to catch this and push it farther through. Yeah, unfortunately, there's kind of glue like everywhere on this. There is probably a better a better way to do this. Like, I want to say in some video, I attached a weight. I tied like a weight around this and fed it through that way. And that way it just kind of fell through, in spite of the fact that the rope or the string itself, the elastic was kind of coiled. All right, finally. That took entirely too long. Continuing to thread it through. Yeah, there's just glue everywhere in there now because the elastic just snagged over and over and over again as it went. Oh boy, that is a snug fit. Oh my goodness. You know what? This needs to be sanded. That seems like the only recourse at this point because it is really snug. I really should have dry fit this first, the non-gluey side, just to make sure. But I didn't, so it's okay. Yes. All right. Try it again. Oh, yeah, my goodness. That damaged the glue that was holding the centering ring in place. All right, well, it's in. Yeah. Okay, well, this has been a bit of a disaster. The glue broke on the motor mount. So I'm going to have to try this again. This was dry. This was assuredly dry. It had a fillet in place to give it extra strength. And it was just, the fit inside the tube was just too tight. And it broke. So that is deeply unfortunate. It means we're going to have to take a second try at this. So I need to get the string out. And I'm going to try to mop up what glue is in there. And I'll be able to at least get some of it with my finger. I can't use this end a second time because it was already problematic, right? It was already a very narrow fit. And with all that glue in there that's going to dry, it's just never going to get in there. So what needs to happen then is this needs to sit. This is frustration of building rockets. Sometimes it just doesn't work as intended. This needs to get another fillet for extra strength because apparently it wasn't strong enough the first time. So do that quickly. It's going to have to dry for, again, several hours before I attempt this again. Smooth out the fillet, both sides. All that extra glue makes this kind of ugly, but fortunately, this is a part no one's going to see. Anyway, so I need to try the second time on this side. It doesn't really make a difference, fortunately, but it's certainly inconvenient. Meanwhile, let's just have a look at the the elastic here. I mean, it has a little bit of glue on it, but it's nothing noticeable. This time, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to clip the elastic, run this a couple times through this pencil. Pencil should be good enough to use it as a guide. So I'll just drop the pencil through and I'll take the string with us next time. But that's going to have to wait for next time. So in the intervening time, this will dry. I'm definitely going to sand these like really hard and test fit them again. These need to be shaped, and by next video, that should all be done. So thanks for watching, and I will see you then.